Hello, my name is Nyasha Lavinia Chita, and I come from Zimbabwe. I created this channel called My Religion, and I put it in question marks because I feel there are certain issues about religion that we need to discuss, especially considering I'm also coming from an African continent where there are diverse religions, and in most cases this religion is actually entwined or intertwined with the culture, our tradition, and our belief systems in our societies. The reason why I thought of creating this channel is because I have realized there are a lot of negative repercussions that come because of what we idealize as religion. And in most cases, it actually it creates dysfunction, and it creates a lot of issues that have to do with mental health, and people don't take it seriously, but it actually affects us as societies. Now, I'm a Christian, so most of my ideas will be based because of the kind of religion I grew up in. But I did have exposure to some certain types of religions, which I'll discuss anyway as I do my channel. But for today, I do not want to go on an in-depth analysis of my life. I would rather go on a general view of what we call religion. From my own point of view, religion defines us as individuals, and it shapes even our destinies in most cases, because this is where we get the social norms that we actually prescribed by, and we actually conform to what we call traditions or culture or beliefs. And this also shapes the functioning of the system, and even also brings dysfunction to the systems. Now, from my side, I grew up in a Christian background. My father was a reformer. If you know Reformed Church of Zimbabwe, which is notably similar to Dutch, but in Zimbabwe, it's called Reformed Church of Zimbabwe. So this is the religion I grew up in. But my mother was raised from a background of white garment churches. And from what she explained to me, it's actually two types of white garment churches. The other one was Mwaja, the other one was Marangi. Mwaja, she said it was her grandfather's church, and then Marangi was the father's church because he had two wives. So obviously, being raised by two parents who have different type of religions, I was exposed to a lot of things. And also considering from my father's side, he was from a Reformed Church of Zimbabwe church, but I later on got to know they had also been exposed to African traditional religion. um, this is, we're talking about traditional healers. Sangomas is the other term that other people use. And as I grew up, I never really knew and understood why my father didn't like African traditional religion. Because I remember when I was in grade 3, I went for a traditional dance session. And when I got home, I was so excited to tell my dad. I was actually updating him and I was dancing, showing him what we had learned that day. But to my surprise, he got really angry. He went to his bedroom and he took a very big leather belt and he beat me up. I remember the following day, he went with me to school. He went with me to school and he went to the class teacher and he told our class teacher, if ever you see my child going for traditional dance, please exclude her. You'd rather leave her in class and do studies. You can take everyone else if their parents want, but I don't want my child to go for traditional dance. And he made it very clear. And then he asked the class teacher to direct him to the traditional dance teacher. Went again, told the teacher, if ever you find my child among your sessions, please chase her away because I do not even want to see her anywhere close to that. He went to the school headmaster again. Went and said the same thing. And then he even told the headmaster that if me going for traditional dance sessions was actually mandatory, he should advise him so that he can transfer me in time. Well, of course, the headmaster was like, no, it's okay. We understand it will not happen again. And I never really got to understand why he did that. I only got to understand it when I grew up and he was late. May his soul rest in peace. So, as we grew up, I still remember my dad was actually a pillar in my life. And this is why I'm saying religion has got a very big impact on how a person turns out. Because I've been exposed to other traditions before and religions, but because I was nurtured rather to a certain type of religion, I still find myself mostly inclined to that Christian religion that my father laid down on me. I remember when I was young, my dad would actually lead the prayer sessions at home. Sometimes when he was not on night shift, he would come back. He would give us rolls. We were 4 siblings at that time, and one of our siblings was actually a cousin of mine, but we grew up with her. So my dad would come home and he would give us rolls. So he would say, so and so today you're the one who's singing, so and so today you're the one who's praying, so and so today you're the one who's giving us a word of prayer, the word of God. We're going to share with us the word of God. And then if he's not on night shift, we'll definitely know our roles. So if I was the one who's supposed to give the word, usually, after I share my word, he would then take us through a sort of like Bible study, or he would actually add more from what I would have said. And then, of course, if someone sings whenever we were supposed to sing, because usually we'll start our prayers by singing, we'll then go to the word. After the word, we'll sing again, and then the next person would pray. And then after the prayer, we just dismiss and go for bed. So after my word, or whoever shares the word, he would also say something. And he would actually create sort of like a Bible study of some sort. Then after the prayer, after whoever is supposed to pray prays, he would also give a word of prayer. So I noticed as we were growing, this would actually challenge us. Because if you are the one who was supposed to share the word of God, because we knew our Father was expecting us to do something nice, I would actually find myself during the day going through the Bible, looking for something I could share that would be meaningful to everyone in the evening. Because I remember one day I got really lazy and I opened the Bible and then I read, is it the, what do you call this? Is it called biograph, I think? What do you call it? Where you read out like Abraham was born by who, and this was born by this, and this was born by this. I ended up reading that, and you know, I couldn't even share any word from that, and I got embarrassed. So from then onwards, it taught me to actually take the word of God seriously, because I wouldn't just open the Bible when I get to the evening prayer session. I would actually have to open it in advance, then share the word, and then have something to say about it. And as we were doing our Bible study, he would explain to us what the word meant, and he would try to put it in practice for us to understand what it meant. So at that time, I think I was, from my father's children, I was the eldest when he passed away. So I could say I got more from him, and we were very close. I was more of a daddy's daughter. That's one of the things maybe why I actually take him as a role model in my life. One thing I could note though is, as we grew up, most of the times when we did our prayer sessions, my mom would not come. She would actually go for bed. Later on, I got to realize maybe it was because she grew up from a white garment church. So this type of prayer way, like sharing the word of God, she really didn't understand it. And maybe she felt, I wouldn't speak for her though, but I'm just assuming now that it wasn't her thing, because she never grew up doing that. And at one point, I remember when I had actually grown up, I would send her verses and audios of the word of God. And she once confessed to me that she appreciated how I was sharing the word of God with her, because this was actually a new experience for her. Because when she was attending white garment churches, they would mainly focus on the 10 Commandments. So everything else in the Bible would not really be discussed. It was mostly talking about the Ten Commandments. So that time she actually felt I was actually showing her another side of the Word of God that she didn't understand, and she appreciated it. Mm, going forth with my life. Uh, when my dad was still alive, here and there, we would see prophets coming, white garment church prophets, when some issues would arise. I still remember at one point we stayed with a certain maid. She was very young. I think she was 16 years or so. So when she came, my mom and dad went to South Africa. So when they went, we were left with the maid. Okay, the house help. Maybe maid would be rude. The house help. So when we stayed with the house help, my little brother got sick, very sick, and he was hallucinating. We got really worried. We couldn't access my parents because those days there were no mobile phones. It was just landlines, and because they traveled to South Africa, we could not communicate with them. So the best we could do is I went to our neighbors because we stayed next to a pastor. So when I went to that pastor, I told them my brother was not feeling well, and he was hallucinating. They came, they had prayers with him, took him to the clinic. Funny enough, at the clinic they said he's okay. They didn't find any issue with him, but he was not okay. It got so bad to the extent that my little brother actually slept at the pastor's place for like, is it 2 days if I'm not mistaken? Because my mom and dad had gone to South Africa. I think they went for 4 days or so. When they came back, when we managed actually to get contact with them, because I called one of my mother's sister, and then I'm sure she's the one who communicated with other means until they got the message to my parents that my little brother was not well. So when they got home, it was not a sight to see. They went again with him to the doctor, nothing came about, and he kept on hallucinating. I remember my mother's sister actually came with a prophet from their church. And when that prophet came, he just came and he said, "Can you call your house help?" Then she came, and then he was like, "I do not want to speak for you, because if I speak for you, it will not end well. Can you just confess what you did?" I remember vividly that little girl. She started crying, and then she said, my grandmother sort of like initiated me into witchcraft. I don't know what you call it in English, but in our native language, it's called nyora. So you put some incisions using a sharp thing, maybe a razor blade, and then you put incisions either on your hand, your back, or something. And she was saying those incisions were made on her body by her grandmother when she initiated her into witchcraft. So she said when she was waking up to go for her night duties, my little brother woke up and saw her, of which in the spirit world it is not allowed, because she had already done her ritual for her to go outside. And then that is what was affecting my little brother. It was so scary, I tell you. And I remember my dad just said, pack your things, you are not sleeping here. They gave her her salary. We went with her to the buses because some of the buses would actually travel overnight. So they took her to the buses, gave her all her salary. She hadn't even worked a month. It was less than a month, but they gave her a full salary. And then I remember when she was packing her stuff, she removed stuff from the top of the pelmet, the curtain pelmet. And some of them were like horns, some were like leaves, some stuff that was in cloth, which was like powderish. And then I ask myself every time, what is it we call religion? It's complex because I'm not doing this channel because I want to criticize religions. I actually want to understand why there's a very big clash when it comes to these religions, and yet somehow they seem intertwined. You get my point? Okay. When I was going through my Bible, I remember the story of the fallen angels. Fallen angels, from what I read from the Bible, these angels had gifts that God had given them. Some could read the stars, the moon, what you call it, I think it's called horoscoping or something, astrology. Some could actually know which plants could treat people. Some had gifts. I think you understand what I'm saying, but in short, these gifts were gifts that were given to these angels by God, and which means they are a part of God. But the difference is these gifts are being used for bad purposes, and yet they were actually meant for the better good of everyone. So when I look at it from a Christian view, I realize that everything that our so-called devil or Satan does has a very big link with what God is. And because we have actually differentiated most of these gifts and place them as, some of them we take them as pagan gifts, but if you really look closely, you realize they're just one thing. Because even if you come to Christianity, there are people who actually use the word for the wrong purposes. So I do not condone any religion at all, because I feel it's the same thing, but it's the same things being used for wrong purposes. And then these things prescribe to a certain law. And the problem is, as individuals, we have not really, what can I say, come to a place where we actually integrate these things for a greater good. And I'll still ask the same question: what is a religion? If you go through the Word of God, I'm sure it's Exodus 18, verse 10 to 12. It talks about um, God, the things that God despises. And he was saying God despises parents that sacrifice their children into the fire. He despises people, what you call them, divinators. They were divinators. Let me check. Let me just check my Bible, but it was talking about divination, necromancy, so many things. Yeah. Casting of spells, sorcery, fortune telling, physicians, magicians, necromancers, and this was all being described as things that disgust God. And I'm asking myself, if you then prescribe to be a Christian and you then go against these things, why then, as Christians, do these things keep on affecting us even though we don't believe in them? And this is where I come back to the question, what is religion? Because if then we do have faith in something, then these other issues would not affect us. Which means there's something that we are not doing as Christians, or that we are missing out as Christians, which is making us fail to partake to the faith in action that we actually want to establish. I would like to create a dialogue so that if there's anyone who's seeing this video, they can actually share their own views, because I stand to benefit from this a lot. It's more of a research for me. I have things that I've also gone through and established, but I actually feel there's a missing puzzle to all of this. And sometimes it would be good if people just learn to share in truth, because I've also realized that people are also oblivious to the truth. We even know the bad things that should not be done, but surprisingly, the same things people know are not supposed to be done, they still go back and do it. Like the issue of looking for goblins to enrich yourself. Plenty of times we hear of that, and we hear of the repercussions it has on people's lives, but we still find people going there. Why? If the belief system was really that strong, then why would someone knowingly go for something they know could endanger them and their family? And then afterwards, you come back and suffer again to try to get yourself out of those problems. Yet you knew already that there are previous examples of people who have suffered after doing it. Then I also realized that most people who end up doing those things would have also gone through so many sufferings that will leave them in a place where they just say to themselves, I don't care anymore. As long as I achieve this, I don't care about the repercussions. And then still suffer when the repercussions come, and they start asking themselves, What have I gotten myself into? How then can I get help to stop this? Or maybe they might know it's now affecting them, but because they are scared of dying, they would rather other people suffer, and they keep on doing what they are doing when they know it's wrong. And sometimes people get these things all in the name of religion, belief systems. If you go back to the basics, very small things can actually put people in these positions. And I'm asking myself, what is religion? So this is my part 1. I will come back with my part 2. And part 2, I would also go in depth of some of my personal issues, because I know that people have a tendency of thinking, she's just trying to, what you call it, please the public with the talks. I'm not doing it because I want to please the public, but I faced a lot of spiritual things that showed me that as Africans per se, or as humans, we are oblivious to things that actually create problems in our lives. And some of these things become a cycle in our families. And we end up thinking they are generational cases, and yet they are things that we actually do that then manifest and continue to infiltrate our families. Because once you start it, if you die, the next person then carries on your burden unknowingly, and also in the process of trying to stop those things might even create their own new burdens, and the cycle keeps going on and on and on. Anyway, for today, let me conclude here. But my question still remains, what is religion?